Hello and welcome to the match report hosted by Free Midfield Cahill. Kojo, how you doing, sir?
All good, bro. How you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Look at this. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. It's a beautiful podcast. Look at all these beautiful faces. It's wonderful. It's amazing. Arsenal
You're
are
the
being
one.
beautiful right now, so I can't complain, man.
You're the one with the really, really fresh trim. I can see
There
it.
you go. See, you see it? Yeah, there we
It's
go.
beautiful. That's beautiful. You're looking smooth, my bro. You're looking very smooth.
But no, we can't go on without introducing our guests for, of course, Jordan, Jarrett, Bryan. How you doing, sir? JJB there.
Very good, my bro. Very good. How you doing?
We can't complain. We can't complain. For the first time in a long time, we actually can't complain. Imagine that.
Not even good right now. We'll get into that.
Of course we will. And Tony Cottee, how you doing, sir? Joining us on the podcast. This is nuts. This is a step up for us, man.
How you doing, boys? You all good?
Yeah, all good. Can't complain, man. It's been a good day.
Excellent. Unfortunately, I was at Tottenham West Ham yesterday, so if I'm in a bit of a gruff mood, you'll excuse me and know why. So,
I mean, Tony, man, you had one job. You had one job, Tony. Come on.
It's football, boys, isn't it? It's football. It's football.
Ah, man. And you can't wipe that smile off Darren T's face, man. Look at him beaming.
Of course.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. It's good to be on with you again. It's been a while. I just want to say to Mr. Cottee, thank you for the 3 points.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We're settled for being in Europe instead. So thank you.
Hey,
here we go.
Hey.
I mean, if we're starting off with some fire, let's go to that game. Of course, Spurs 3. West Ham United 1. Now there were goals, and if I can get it up, there we go. I see it. Goals were scored by Kurt Zouma, Heung-min Son, Ben Rama, and Heung-min Son again. We're gonna go positive first because it's a beautiful day. So Darren T, you'll get your shine. Here we go, sir. 3-1, a very difficult game in prospect, I believe, but at the end it seemed like a walk in the park for Spurs.
Honestly, I wouldn't say a walk in the park. It was comfortable, but at the end of the day, West Ham had their chances, didn't necessarily take them. Antonio had that shot, went wide. I just think that this is the Tottenham I want to see, a positive Tottenham, one that turns up to big games. Because at the end of the day, like West Ham have done a number on us a few times over the last couple of seasons, and it was good to see Tottenham actually show up. Because obviously against United, Middlesbrough, Burnley, we ain't showing up. So it was good to see that mentality, and Conte's instilling that mentality in the Tottenham side. Hopefully it will continue. Long may it continue. But yeah, some good goals. Kane and Son linking up. Benton, Core, and Kulusevski have been very, very good additions to the side. They've really added quality to our midfield. And to be fair, we didn't have that much quality in the midfield, so anybody could have really come and added some quality. But they've been very, very good additions and have been very positive. So I'm just generally happy and quite relieved that we got 3 points against a top 4 rival, to be honest with you.
I mean, Tony, you came up in the era with two strike partnerships. I mean, you and Emil Heskey formed a good partnership. Okay, Kane and Son, and not really strikers, or you could say a strike partnership, but the partnership they formed, it is something special. When they're on form, you just can't stop them, can you?
I just think they're 2 world-class players. I've got to be honest, boys. As I say, listen, we have a bit of a laugh and a joke and a bit of banter and everything, but in all seriousness, Tottenham deserved to win yesterday. There's no doubt about that. West Ham had good possession, not really got too much going on up front at the moment. Funny enough, I said to my friend earlier, I said, if West Ham had Harry Kane and Son up front, where would West Ham be this season? They would be right up there in that top 4, and they would be pushing away because West Ham have got everything, but they haven't got the attacking options that Spurs have got. Listen, I've got to say, I love Harry Kane. I know he's English, etc., and all that, but I love watching Harry Kane. I thought he was magnificent yesterday. His overall game didn't score. I think there was one chance. I think it was second half where he put one over the bar. I think, and you think, wow, that Harry should have scored. But you know, just his overall play, looking from my point of view as an ex-forward and watching how he links players up, and when he gets it, the first person he looks for is Son. And, you know, they're just a wonderful partnership. And, you know, listen, Spurs are doing all right, aren't they? Let's be honest, they're only 3 points behind Arsenal. They've still got to play each other in the North London derby. So, you know, Spurs are having a decent season. They really are. But, you know, I'm only being fair and honest here. As you know me, boys, I'm always honest. And Spurs deserve to win yesterday, no doubt about that.
I mean, Jordan, like I can't disagree with that, to be honest with you. But, I mean, as an Arsenal fan, it can't be nice. It's not nice knowing that Spurs are very close. They are very. I say they're up there with challenging for the top four. They're probably the biggest rivals in terms of teams around us right now. Kulusevski, Son, Kane. I mean, Conte. What do you see? What do you see Conte doing? Do you see Conte achieving his top four right now? Because of course they claim they think they have the best team. They definitely have one of the best managers in world football right now. So
do they have the best team? I mean, I'm not so sure they do. I think Son and Kane aside, is that a good Spurs team? I'm not so sure it is. But the biggest compliment I can pay to Spurs is that I was speaking to some of my Arsenal buddies a couple of days ago, and I asked the question to them, you know, who are the bigger threat to us, Man United or Spurs? And everybody said Spurs, and I agree with them and the reason why I think they're a bigger threat to top four for us is because we've got to play United and Spurs. But I think we've got a significantly better chance of beating United at the Emirates than we have of beating Spurs at the White Hart. What do you put it now? White Hart Pain? Wherever you call it.
Hotspur Stadium.
Whatever it's called, yeah. We used to call it 3 Point Lane. It's not so bad now anyway. But I think we've got a better chance of beating United than Spurs. So I think Spurs are the bigger threat. I'm not convinced by the Spurs team, but the biggest thing I can compliment my team Arsenal about is that because we're doing our business, I'm not really caring about what Spurs do. Arsenal in a position now whereby as long as we handle our business, it doesn't really matter when Spurs beat West Ham 3-1, obviously in an ideal world, I want West Ham to win that or drop points. But for me as an Arsenal fan, we're handling our business. So Spurs beating West Ham 3-1, it doesn't really make a difference to me. Do you know what I mean? Because we're in control. So Spurs are in the mix. I do think Spurs are the biggest threat to us finishing top four. They haven't scheduled the North London derby yet. I mean, that could be pushed back so far. It might actually be irrelevant. The Spurs drop points and we continue our run. It might not matter so much.
I'm thinking they scheduled that for like the last game of not the last game, but the second to last game of the season. I think that's when that game's going to come. But I don't know why. I don't know why they've taken so long. But let's get into that.
You chickened out of the first game. That's why. But anyway, we'll carry on. You chickened out of the first game. Let's be real. That's what you did.
Is that what happened? I mean, COVID happened, man. Those were the rules, Darren T.
I made Darren right.
Shameless.
I made Darren right, actually. I'm one of the few Arsenal fans that thought it was disgraceful from Arsenal. I thought it was embarrassing. I get why they did it, but it was poor. It was poor.
It was, but hey, we weren't the current form that we are in now, so we're ready to face that now. We just need the time, Jordan. We just need the time. Don't worry about it. We're ready now. Kojo, let's bring you in on this, man. I thought it was really easy for Tottenham. I mean, West Ham didn't exactly show themselves in glory. Kurtzman mostly scoring their own goal, but kind of disappointing performance by West Ham, I would say.
What worried me about their performance more than anything was the amount of space they were giving Kane and Son through pretty much every opportunity. Obviously, Kane, he's been showing his playmaking ability for the last couple of years now, but recent time he sort of drops deep because now he's got another runner on the right side in Kulusevski who's going to make that run beyond him with Son. So he has two options to try and find, and they weren't able to track him whatsoever. Every time he dropped deep, every time he got into a bit of space, he turned around, he had acres to find the right pass. Even when they tried to challenge him for the third goal, it was an easy header that he just knocked forward, looped it over the defenders and went straight to Son. I just think it could be a hangover from Europe. I don't know if I can use that as an excuse for them. Obviously, Thursday going into Sundays has never been easy for any team that's played Europa League. And they played 120 minutes on top of that as well, actually. But no, it was just a very, very lackluster performance. Kurt Zouma wasn't aggressive enough in his challenges. Neither was Dawson in his approach as well. The midfield didn't really help the defense too tough, in my opinion. Declan Rice looked a bit tired because he's been really good in recent weeks. He's been intercepting passes, he's been winning tackles, and also driving the team forward with his dribble. So, yeah, it was a disappointing performance, but I don't want to take anything away from Spurs. They were really, really good. Really, really good. And those two were on form, so...
I think it was the most banker of a Spurs win you could think of. I left work at about 3:30 yesterday. And my mate who's a Spurs fan said to me, "What do you reckon?" I said, "Spurs win that game comfortably." And not because I don't rate West Ham, but I think I disagree with you a little bit, Kojo. I actually think West Ham put so much into that game on Thursday. I just think they were physically, but also emotionally spent. Just seeing the players and the fans after the game there, they were just emotionally drained. There's no way they were going to give Spurs the game that I think they would have wanted to give them off the back of what they did on Thursday. And the second reason I think there was a banker Spurs win was because with Arsenal winning the day before, Spurs knew they had to win. Spurs knew they had to win. So I think those are the two reasons why, for me, it was always going to be a Spurs win. And I think West Ham's focus now, Tony may disagree, but I imagine their focus now will slightly turn towards trying to progress in Europe.
Sorry, boys. I think their focus has been on the Europa League right from the start of the season. I mean, if you look at how they performed in the group stages, they won the first 5 games. The last game was a dead rubber. To be fair to David Moyes, he's really, really put the Europa League right up there. And listen, let's be honest. West Ham, in my opinion, I'm not sure they're quite ready to be a top 4 club. You can always have a one-off season, like a Leicester season, if you like, where things go fantastically well. But in terms of priorities, I mean, you've all made some really good points. But I was at the London Stadium on Thursday night, and it was an atmosphere like I haven't known that since they left Upton Park. It was an incredible atmosphere, wonderful performance, but physically and mentally, they must have been drained from that game. And you also got to say as well, by knocking Sevilla out, you probably knocked out the other team that you would say are probably they're second in La Liga. So, listen, I know Barcelona are there, but they're not the Barcelona role. West Ham have genuinely got a chance to win the Europa League. And I've been saying all season that West Ham have to prioritise that, because if you win the Europa League, firstly, you have a great time going around Europe, which I did. I was in Sevilla with all the fans. It was wonderful. You win a cup. If you win that cup, you get in the Champions League. If you get in the Champions League, it's the only way to keep Declan Rice, the only way. So, I agree with what you're saying. But, West Ham yesterday, of course they tried. Of course they worked hard. But really, in the circumstances, it was pretty always going to be a Tottenham win. I think there's no doubt about that.
I mean, let's round this the Spurs talk up with the next 6 fixtures for each team in the running for the top 4. I'm gonna try and be as unbiased as possible. I know it's hard, but just right, guys. Who is going to get top 4? So Tottenham's next fixtures are as follows: Aston Villa, Brighton, Brentford, Leicester, and Liverpool away. Arsenal's Palace, Brighton, Southampton, Chelsea, Man United, and West Ham. Manchester United's fixtures are Leicester, Everton, Norwich, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Brentford. And West Ham's fixtures are Everton, Brentford, Burnley, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Norwich. Now, if I'm going to be honest, I say Arsenal have the toughest run of fixtures there.
Okay.
And that doesn't look too promising for me. I think Jordan may disagree with that, but I don't know.
I don't disagree with on paper, toughest fixtures, but I'll say 2 things to that. People have been saying Arsenal the toughest running of all the clubs. I don't know how we can really predict at this point in the season what's a tough game or what's not a tough game. Is Burnley on paper a tough game? Do you know what I mean? They're fighting for something. Is Crystal Palace, who are on form, is that a tough game? So I always find it a bit weird when people kind of say that's a tough game, playing Chelsea. League-wise, Chelsea haven't really got much to play for. They're going to go deep into Europe, no doubt. But on paper, is that an easier game than playing Burnley, who are fighting? So I don't know what a tough game is. And the second thing is, if you flip it, even if we agree that Arsenal got the toughest run-in out of United, Arsenal, and Spurs, okay. But I would also say Arsenal are on the best form of the 3 teams. So Arsenal in the best position to face those tough games. Do you know what I mean? So I don't really pay too much credence to run-ins, because in this type of the season, we could beat Chelsea one week and then get beat by Burnley the next. So I don't really focus too much on, that's a hard game for Spurs. What's the easy one? I just think Arsenal in the groove now, where they've just got to just tick off games, just win games, treat every game like it's a cup. It's a cliche, but like it's a cup final. So on paper, yeah, maybe the hardest run in, but I don't know how much that really counts for anything personally.
So you're going Arsenal top 4 finish, right?
I think Arsenal will get top 4. I just think they're in the best form. I think unlike Spurs and United, Arsenal have a little bit of wiggle room with the game in hand and the points on the board. Spurs have to pretty much win every game. They ain't going to do that.
Tony?
Well, I think you've got to look at, if you're asking me the direct question, who I think is going to finish in the top 4, I think you've got to look at who at the moment is the best team. And, we've already touched on it. I think Tottenham are a decent side, but, they're very much the two boys up front. If you look at Manchester United, all I see is a fantastic group of individuals. I don't really see a decent team. And if you look at Arsenal, I watched them play against Villa at the weekend. For me, they're the best team at the moment. Jordan's right. Things can change, and it's hard to call games in the Premier League. It really is. And sometimes you can just have one or two dips in results, and all of a sudden it's a bit of a crisis, and the teams catch you up, etc. So I think we've still got a long way to go. There's 10 games left, I think, for Arsenal. So it's still some massive games coming up. But the one thing it does help is if you're not playing in the European football, it helps you to just focus on the Premier League games, and that's what they can do. They haven't got any other distractions, have they? So at the moment, I would say Arsenal are favourites, but it can change. We all know that.
Absolutely.
Now, Darren, I know. I know your answer, but I'm going to let you answer it.
You don't, you know. You
I
don't,
don't?
you know. You
Go
don't,
on.
you know. Listen, I'm realistic, right? I'm realistic. Most Tottenham fans that you see are probably saying that we're not making top 4. We said that from probably, I don't know, after Burnley. Definitely after United. We come back, we get a great result against West Ham, but you just don't know what. We're just too unpredictable at the moment. And I still think that we've got a long way to go in terms of building the team. And we are the kings of individual errors. Oh my goodness gracious me. The absolute kings of individual errors. I couldn't turn around and tell you I trust that Tottenham side to make top 4. I really want to be able to say it, but I'm really not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not going to lie. And I think it's in Arsenal's hands. It's Arsenal's to lose, which I hate saying with a passion.
Say it again.
I'm not saying it again. Yeah, you can watch the recording, bro. Yeah. But at the end of the day, yeah, we've just got to be realistic. Man United won't make it. I think Man United have got the hardest running personally, because they've got an Everton side that's quite unpredictable. They've got Liverpool Anfield. We've got Liverpool Anfield as well. Like, nobody's beating Liverpool Anfield for the rest of the season, as far as I'm concerned. Right. So that's just right. You write that off immediately. They've got Arsenal, who are the informed team in the top 4. And they've got, Brighton, who can play you off the park at any given moment, and Chelsea and Palace. And Palace are no mugs. So at the end of the day, I can't see Man United making it. West Ham, as Tony's alluded to, are going to be going for Europa League. I don't think they can fight on both fronts, because physically and mentally especially, it's going to be quite tiring. So I think, as he said, you'll concentrate on the top 4. And I do think, I just can't. Tottenham are too unpredictable at this particular moment. I'd love to see it, and to be honest, if it does happen, no Arsenal fan's gonna like me ever again. But I just don't think. I just can't see it, and I've said what I've said. I'm not gonna repeat it, but I've said what I've said in it. Yeah.
Hear that.
You know what's funny there when he said Tottenham are the kings of. I thought you were gonna say bottling it, but it is what it is, man. I understand you wanted to show a safe face.
Wow.
Cahill, I'm actually trying to be nice today. I haven't been on there for a while. I've been on there for a while, so I said I'm not gonna be as bad as I normally am. I'm gonna be quite diplomatic, but you lot are pushing me.
He's your order, Darren. Coach, who's getting top 4, man? Before we move on.
I would love to say my team, but being realistic as well, it's never going to be Man United, because Tony said it perfectly. It's individuals. The team as a whole, the club as a whole, is just one hell of a mess. No one knows who likes each other. The fans don't like the players or the rest of that. So earlier this season, I said it's going to a London club. If you ask me to predict that London club, I will have to say North London Red, better known as Arsenal.
Woolwich.
Makes me sick to say that, because obviously, look, I would actually, of the 3 clubs, I prefer West Ham to finish top 4, but I think West Ham, you guys have alluded to, West Ham focusing on Europe is a lot better for them. Obviously, if they win a trophy and win Champions League, that's get into the Champions League. Sorry, rather that's a beautiful story for West Ham as well. Just gonna say, I feel like Man United might actually finish bottom of that pack.
I agree.
I don't have much confidence in Man United to get the results or consistent enough results to challenge enough for the top four. That's just my personal opinion. So if Man United are a Europa Conference team next season, so be it.
Fair play, man. Let's talk about the best team in North London. Arsenal.
Enfield Town.
Absolutely not. Absolute Arsenal Football Club. We won 1-0 against Aston Villa on the weekend. Goal from Bukayo Saka. Jordan.
A big win, man. Big win. Yeah. I did a podcast last week with some friends of mine, and I said that off the back of the Liverpool defeat, I felt that the Villa game was our biggest game of the season. So I think if we hadn't won that game, I think the haunting that's had us before of collapses at this part of the season would have been the narrative. I think the Villa game was the first game this season where there was actual pressure and expectation on this football team. We're like, all right, you just lost to Liverpool, you're in fourth. Spurs play the following day. United don't play. Go and give us a reaction. And Villa are a bit of an up and down team, but they're no mugs, and it's away at Villa. I mean, I think we've lost there the last 2 seasons. So it was the first game that I think Arsenal were actually expected to do something under pressure, and they did. They not only won, they deserved to win, and they got a clean sheet as well with a couple of key players out. So I think it was a massive win for Arsenal. Saka is leading this team. I'm really, really pleased and proud of him. But the person I want to just briefly mention as well that I think deserves a shout out is Leno, because it must be a bit embarrassing being a goalkeeper at a club, and then a new guy comes in. He's been relegated twice previously. The fan base aren't having him, but yeah, he takes your shirt. And then when he does come in, the fan base universally love him. And you've gone from being the main guy for 4 years to now the number 2. I've never heard anything from. And we signed a keeper in January for the summer. So his confidence must be really, really low, yet he's been professional. I've never heard any grumblings from Bernd Leno. He came into the team on Saturday. You know, he wasn't peppered. I think they had like 1 shot on target towards the end. But he did his job. And I think that says a lot about the coach that Mikel Arteta has managed to garner at this football team. I wouldn't go to the whole Aubameyang thing again, but he's been very, very meticulous about getting rid of individuals that he doesn't feel fit into the team ethic and keeping the ones here who he does. And I think Leno kind of embodied that on the weekend for us. So I think it was a massive win for Arsenal. Not only a confidence booster for Arsenal, but again, if you're Spurs, if you're United watching that result, you're thinking, oh man, because you're thinking they're going to drop points. Liverpool just beat them, a couple of key players out, away at Villa, they're going to drop points there, and then you see they go win 1-0. So I think what Arsenal are doing this season, whenever there's been adversity, they've come back and they've bounced back. First 3 games of the season lost, bounced back. There was a 10-day period where we lost to Everton, United, and Liverpool in 10 days. After that, bounced back. Out of the 2 cups in January, a reaction, bounced back. No signings in January. The fan base are going crazy. We forget about that now because the team are constantly bouncing back. Lose to Liverpool, bounce back. So I reckon Arsenal are the 4th best team in the country. And that result for me, I think we may look back on in May, if we do get 4th, and think that was a very pivotal game.
We will come back to the culture point that you made in a moment, but we're going to go to you, Tony. A very mature performance by believe Arsenal are the youngest team in the Premier League right about now. A very mature 1-0. You don't really hear 1-0 to the Arsenal, especially away from home in recent years. But like I said before, mature performance by the boys and a professional performance. They got the job done and they desperately needed to get those 3 points.
Yeah, do you know what? I think they've done fantastic, Arsenal. I know I haven't spoken to you boys for quite a while now, but if you'd have spoken to me at the start of the season, I would have been really, really worried about Arsenal. I still think they're quite a few players short in terms of their squad depth. I think if you put their best team out, I think at the moment they've got a really good team, full of confidence, playing, working hard for each other. The manager's done a really good job after what was a disastrous start to the season. But I still think squad-wise, they need to improve their squad. at last, and I say this at last, Arsenal have started to build from the back. You can have all the best midfield players in the world and all the best centre forwards in the world who score fantastic goals and whatever. You will never win anything without a decent goalkeeper and a back four. And Arsenal, listen, as much as I loved Arsene Wenger, they've really struggled to get the back four and a goalkeeper in place, probably since the Invincibles, which, I mean, it's nearly 20 years ago now, the Invincibles. You know, but they've signed Ramsdale. I know he didn't play on Saturday. Fantastic goalkeeper. Left back's good. Ben White's done well. Is it Gabriel, isn't it, the centre half, who's done really well? Right back, I'm not sure about. Maybe that's a position they need to fix for next season. But they've at last accepted you have to build from the back if you want to win something. Look at Liverpool. Like there was two things missing at Liverpool: a goalkeeper and a centre half. What they do, they buy Alisson, they buy Van Dijk, and then you win the league for the first time in 30 years. It's not rocket science, as we always say in football. It's about the basics. And to be fair to Arteta, I think he's building at Arsenal. It was a very good performance against Villa. I watched Villa at West Ham the week before, and they was really, really poor. So, again, it's hard to judge where Arsenal are. They lost to Liverpool, but I think most teams are going to lose to Liverpool at the moment. So it's hard to know where Arsenal are. But I like what Arteta's trying to do, what he's trying to put in place at Arsenal. And I know we've got a few Arsenal boys on the panel. You know, if I was you, I'd be excited, genuinely excited, because he's building from the back, and you keep him playing your football as well, which is great, and it's important as an Arsenal fan. And most importantly of all, you're getting results. So at the moment, it's a good time to be a Gooner.
Cahill was smiling a little bit. He really wanted to beam, but he was holding it back.
Brother, I can't complain about this, man. It's beautiful. Darren T, join with us. Talk about how great Arsenal are right now.
Wow.
No comment. Miss me with that, please.
All right, then. I'm going to go be a bit negative now, June, because you did make a point about the culture that Mikel Arteta has instilled in Arsenal. If it was to all implode and say we don't get top four, we don't get Europa League, we go straight to the Conference League, considering what we've seen right now, would it be right to get rid of Arteta?
I think it depends where we'd finish. So I think if Arsenal finish fifth, then no. I think questions should be asked. I think from this point in, to not finish top four, that would be a semi-implosion, and that would be embarrassing, and that would be unacceptable. You know me, I'm the biggest Arteta fan. I've always backed him. I've always seen something in him. I've never deviated away from that. Had my doubts at one point during the season, admittedly, but generally I've always backed him. But if he was to drop the ball from here on in, I don't know where you go, because you're never going to have a season where you don't have Europe again. And that's a massive factor as to why Arsenal are doing well. You're never going to have a season where all your 5 signings in one summer pretty much all click. That's rare. Injury-wise, Arsenal have been pretty lucky. They've been pretty lucky this year in terms of injuries. Is that going to happen next year? Are United going to be as bad? You know, are Spurs going to be as bad? Well, it's Spurs, so they probably will. You know, if it's not West Ham, it might be Leicester or Wolves or another. Do you know what I mean? So I just think all the stars are aligning for Arsenal. And if they were to drop the ball from here on in, if they finish fifth, I wouldn't sack him. I think sixth, potentially, because if Arsenal finish sixth from here on in, that means that United and Spurs would have gazumped and bypassed Arsenal. So I think if they finish sixth, it's a discussion. His position, if they finish sixth from here on in, has to be a discussion. Because for all the good work you've done all season, when it really matters, when it really counts, you've shown that you can't get the job finished. We're praising Arsenal to the max today. Great, and rightfully so. But it means nothing if Arsenal don't finish top four. It means nothing. And then you got to look at Saka. If I'm Saka, I may be looking to move even if they do get fourth. But if they don't get fourth, I'm like, what am I doing here? I don't buy this whole he loves the club stuff. Listen, Tony can tell us better than anyone, but players want to win. It's a short career. They want to win. If you're Liverpool and City are looking at you, double your contract and you can win trophies. I don't know if that's enough. So I think if he wasn't to get top four from here on in, I think that to be serious question marks about Mikel Arteta's position at the club, even next season. And that's coming from a guy, like I said, who's his biggest fan.
I don't know. I guess for me, I think whether you finish 4th, 5th, or 6th this season, I don't think you'll finish any lower than that. I don't think you should sack him. I think, number one, he's gained the trust of a lot of the squad. I think that's a big factor in that. Now, if they do have a dip in form, he has to address that. He has to find a way to stop the slump. But so far, his signings have been impressive. So far, the way Arsenal have improved has been very, very good. I think you are exceeding expectations of your fan base, of the club itself this season with him. And whether that's because Man United and Spurs and West Ham have dropped points, or whether it's because Arsenal have been good, Arsenal are there. That's the be one end all with that right now, and they were in the discussion. Because I genuinely thought you would get back into a European spot this year. I didn't think it'd be a Champions League spot. And for me, because of my thought process around that, I think that's okay to keep him in the job. Where it comes to me now is I always have to think about 3 years for a manager, or 3 summer windows. So this next summer is going to be huge. Whether you finish top 4 or not, it's going to be huge, because it's either now he addresses 1 or 2 areas that need maybe one more reinforcement, one more signing, just to bolster the squad and make it stronger. So for example, your strikers are only now Lacazette and Nketiah. So I'm sure Arsenal fans are looking to get a striker. They're hoping that they're going to get a striker in, because you went for Vlahovic. That didn't go according to plan. So I think that's where it's key for him. I don't think sacking him would be the answer if you were to finish 6th or I'd say 7th. But
I think it's a debate. I think it's a question, because you can't. It's all well and good saying in theory he's doing great things, but when it really matters, managers are judged on placings and trophies. And if he having done, if you like, all the main body of the work this season and can't get us over the line from here on in against a Spurs team, all jokes aside, Spurs are not traditionally a team that finish in the top 4. They have the last 4 or 5 years, but they're not that team. So if Spurs, with a team that I've just said earlier on, I just think of Son and Kane and 9 other players, and United, who are in absolute pieces, at this point in overtake you, I've got doubts about you. And like I said, next year, you're going to be in the Europa League. So if you can't get top 4 now, when everything's going in your favour, you're never going to get top 4. You're never going to get it. So why persist another season and have another, this is the summer where we're going to judge you? No, I'm sorry. That'll be the 3rd summer. That'll be the 3rd summer.
Yeah, that's why I said that, yeah.
It's not his first
3 years. 3 years is my limit. You get your team built, that's your team.
I'm sorry. From here on in, finish the job. Otherwise, let's get a guy who can. That's brutal.
You've got to accept. I've listened to what you said. I think you've got to accept that Arsenal are in a better place since Arteta took over.
100.
Yeah. I think that's really important as an Arsenal fan, that you understand and respect that, because, and you said like back only getting in the Europa League. Well, they didn't get anywhere last year, so it's still an improvement on last season, and it takes time. I mean, listen, I'm as guilty as anything as a West Ham fan, because I want my team to be successful. We all Spurs, Arsenal, doesn't matter, Man United, whoever you support, you want immediate success, and it doesn't come immediate success. You have to give managers time. I mean, look at West Ham. They're giving David Moyes time. He's building for the future, and it's going in the right direction. Manchester United have appointed an interim manager. What the hell is that all about? And then you wonder why the players are confused. You look at Spurs, and Spurs have got to keep Conte happy. If they don't give him the money, if they don't keep him happy, he will move on. He's a wonderful manager. He's improved Spurs since he's gone into the football club. But I know it's frustrating for you as fans, and you all want to be in the top 4. In terms of keeping Saka, you have to finish Champions League to keep that sort of player, because otherwise he'd be in the England squad, listening to all his mates at Man United, Man City, Chelsea, whatever, Liverpool, and they'll all be saying, we're playing Champions League football next season. And, so you need to finish in the Champions League to keep the players. But with managers, I know it's really, really hard, but you have to try and be patient. They've got a very young team, Arsenal, but they need squad players. They need a centre forward. You've touched on all the real bullet points, if you like. But I think you've got to give managers time, and you don't want managers, it's like saying, let's get rid of him. Who do you replace him with? Because it's not easy to get replacements.
So, Tony, I mean, let me be clear. Pre-season, top 6 was the target. I think most of the fan base, and I think by the club, were just saying, right, get us back into Europe and get us top 6. We will take top 6 right now. That was so. I'm being honest that my expectations pre-season were top 6. I just think, as I mentioned, when all the stars aligned, even if you're a young manager, you don't get opportunities like that very often. It's like being a striker, I suppose. In a game in the Premier League, you won't get a lot of chances. But in the 88th minute, when that ball comes across, you've got to be the guy that finishes it. You've got to take that chance. I just think if we don't take the chance this season, I just think it will be exponentially harder next year for him to get top 4.
I totally agree with you, Jordan. I totally agree. And you're making really good points. But changing the manager, if you change the manager, you change your style of play, you change the favourites that Arteta likes, you get a new manager comes in who doesn't like that player and he wants to play this player, and then you set yourself back another season. I think they've got to stick with Arteta, even if you, as you say, only get in Europa League, which from the position you're in now, you would say that will be a bit of a failure from where you are at the moment, but it's still an improvement on last season. I like to see managers given a little bit more time. It's that magic word in football. It's the most important word, time. And you don't get time in football, and that's the problem with it. We all want immediate success.
Well, change your manager, you become Man United, isn't it?
I think Darren T was going to offer some insight and some praise for Arteta and Arsenal right now, right?
I wasn't going to give any praise or any. No, listen. On in all seriousness, I think continuity is key with managers. We're very, very quick to get rid of managers, and at the end of the day, right? If I'm looking at it from a footballing perspective, right? Arteta has improved the side. So if I was an Arsenal fan, thank the Lord I'm not, right? If I was, right, I would be saying,
you'd be lucky, Darren. Yeah, you might not be as great. You know what I mean? You might have some.
I'd be sick. I'd be sick, and I'd be allergic to it. So yeah, I wouldn't like football as much.
Allergic to success, it seems, yeah, and history. Hey, bro.
Allergic to filth. But anyway, yes, as we're talking about, right? I'm trying to be serious here, right? Like at the end of the day, here, continuity is key, and I think, as Tony said, like to change the manager next season after the good work that he's done and what he's putting in place and the culture that he's putting in place, I think would be a mistake, to be honest with you. That's why I think with where Arsenal are concerned. He's brought some of the young players through. He's brought in Saka. He's brought through. He's brought Odegaard. He's brought through Smith Rowe. Do you know what I mean? It's looking promising at the end of the day. And to be honest, I think Saka will stay another season. I think Saka's all right where he is. He'll stay another season. I don't think he'll go. They'd have to offer astronomical money to get him anyway. So I think he'll actually stay one more season. So I think, if it ain't broke kind of thing, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I agree.
I mean, let's talk about Aston Villa now. Steven Gerrard, he's not had the greatest of starts to his Villa career. I mean, they're comfortably now. If they're not going down, that's guaranteed that they're safe this season. But I mean, Tony, you would have expected them to push on a bit, or is it a simple fact of give him time and next season, considering how much money Villa actually do have, you'll see the fruits of Gerrard's labour?
I've already said about giving managers time, haven't I? And Stevie arrived. I can't remember when it was. Was it September, October? I can't remember when he arrived at the football club. And you only get a job at a football club, halfway through the season or part through the season if things aren't going well. So he's arrived at that football club. It's a massive football club, Aston Villa. I think sometimes when we're in London, we don't always appreciate how big the clubs are around the country. It's all about London football. But Aston Villa historically is a wonderful football club, huge fan base, traditional, fantastic ground, and everything's in place for that club to do well. But it does take time, and Stevie's gone in there, he's signed a few players. There's no other manager at Aston Villa who could have got Coutinho to go to Aston Villa, no other manager. So, but I watched him against Arsenal, and he's got to be more involved in the play. He's got to get on the ball more and make things happen. And you just wonder whether he's sort of going, are the players around me as good as what I'm used to or who I want to play with? So you've got that scenario. I like Danny Ings. I like Ollie Watkins. I think they're both fantastic players who have been playing up front as a partnership. And he left one of them out, didn't he, Danny Ings, at the weekend to change it around because of who they was playing against Arsenal. But it's a work in progress. You can't judge Stevie G at the moment. Yes, of course, they've had inconsistent runs of form. A couple of decent results along the way, but as I said, I saw them at West Ham, and I was really, really disappointed with Villa. I really was expecting a lot more, and they just didn't play against West Ham, and it wasn't a lot better, let's be honest, against Arsenal at the weekend. Yes, it's a good Arsenal team. Yes, they play well, but as the home side, I think you've got to do a little bit better than what Villa did. It wasn't. I don't think there was a shot, was it, on target until like the 90th minute or whatever it was. So, You know, there's a lot to be done at Aston Villa, but you've got to give Stevie time to work out what formation he wants to play, work out what players he wants to keep, what players he wants to get rid of. You know, and that takes time, and he needs a summer window. You know, the boys have been talking about summer windows. Of course, you need a summer window. The January window is a panic window where you don't get value for money, you pay over the top. He needs a summer window to try and sort things out. And you know, as an Englishman, I want to see Stevie do well. We don't want young English managers, whether it's Wayne Rooney, Frank Lampard, Stevie G, John Terry, you name them all, the golden generation. We want to see them do well, because if they don't do well, then other clubs won't want to appoint managers in the future. So we want them to do well. I want to see Stevie do well. He's a great lad, and I want to see him do well, but he just needs that magic word, time.
I mean, we'll move on from Arsenal and Aston Villa and go to the Leeds game. I mean, the top four race is heating up. The relegation battle is heating up right now. Leeds clawed back to victory, 3-2. Goals from, let's get them up if I can see them. Here we are. Goals from Johnny Castro, Trincao, Jack Harrison, Monreino, and Luke Ayling at the end as well. Kojo. We don't know who's going down. They seem they're fighting, man. Everybody is fighting, and Jesse Marsch, I think this is his first official game in charge, and he gets Leeds firing.
Well, I think Leeds obviously needed the win because I think all the clubs below them actually have games in hand on them, which is obviously not.
Yeah, they're the only game on 30.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not something that you need in a relegation battle, because you know what Everton's going to turn up, you don't know what Burnley's going to turn up, and Watford and Norwich as well, if they're going to somehow find a way to stay up. But it was such an important result for them, and the game obviously turned when that red card happened. Whether it's a red card or not, it's a debate.
It's not a red.
Well, they gave us. Was it a yellow?
It was not a yellow. Sorry, my bad. It was not not a yellow
because
it wasn't.
Well, whatever the case be, as soon as they went down to 10 men, they sort of like Leeds just found their energy, and Wolves were sort of disorganized a little bit. They were still trying to create a threat going forward, but of course they didn't have their main man up top, didn't have a target man to help them create attacks. And from there, that's where Leeds found their engine, and they scored 3 good goals. Ayling was fantastic. Goal aside, he was phenomenal. It was brilliant in that game, bombing up and down the wing, supporting his winger in front of him. Defensively, he was sound as well. But this is the drama we live for in the Premier League. This is what we want, because Leeds are a good side. They lost their way under Bielsa a little bit. Marshall's come in, similar style of football, but slightly more structured in the way of making sure they don't concede as many goals. They conceded 2 this time, but they also scored 3. So yes, it was a great win for them. To come back from 2-0 down in any game is impressive.
Minus 33 goal difference. They've conceded 67 goals this season.
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
That's actually nuts. Jordan, we'll come to you. Talk about Everton. Now, I don't believe there's a side big enough in the Premier League who can't go down. And Everton are a big side, a historic side in the Premier League as well. I mean, David Moyes was there for a good while. But who do you see staying up in this race? Everton have 3 games on Leeds. Watford have 1. Burnley have 3. Norwich have 1. I think Norwich are the only team that is probably. I think everybody believes Norwich will be going down. But Everton, they are riding very close to this bottom half, and it was a massive win against Newcastle as well on the weekend.
So prior to Friday, I had Leeds in my bottom 3 to go down. I thought before the Wolves win and the comeback, I thought they were going to go. But that win reminded me that Leeds are, and I'm sure we'll see a different iteration of them now that we're in the post-Bielsa era. But Leeds have always been a team that they'll lose lots of games, but they'll win enough to stay up. So there'll be, I don't know, 8 results where they lose by 6-3, 4-2, 5-2, 6-5, whatever it may be. But they'll also win enough to kind of keep them around 15th, or maybe as last year proved higher. Everton now, I fear for, because unlike with Leeds, who we saw in the weekend have that result in them, I don't know if Everton do. And going back to our chat earlier on about fixture, I'm going to contradict myself here a little bit now, but we spoke about fixtures and ticking off games and what's a hard game, what's an easy game. Everton's next, I think, 5 or 6 games look brutal on paper, and when you're not playing well, to try and pull something out your backside against some teams that are playing really, really well, that's not. I think it's been mentioned in the last few weeks about the personnel at Everton. I just don't think they've got very good, especially at the back. I don't think they've got good defenders. I think they've got average defenders. Even I think it was Jamie Carragher was saying they've got championship back 4. I mean, that might be slightly harsh, but then when you think about it, is it? I mean, again, Tony will know more than me, but I'm looking at their back 4. I've never been convinced by Keane. Kenny as a fullback feels championshipy to me. And there's a few others there that I'm just not convinced by. So I do fear for Everton. I think Everton are in big, big trouble, and it wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, as you said, Jordan, their next fixtures, they're just what we're seeing them now. So they are very tough. West Ham, they're facing away from home. They got Burnley away, who are also in. That's a relegation 6-pointer. Manchester United, Leicester, Liverpool, Chelsea. They got to play Leicester twice as well. Brentford also in a relegation scrap. Arsenal. So Tony, it's not looking good for Everton.
It's not. They're in trouble, and I'm not going to say anything other than that. Thank heavens they beat Newcastle last Thursday, because if they hadn't won that game, they would have been in even more trouble. You try and look for indications about what's going on at a football club, and I know it was an FA Cup game, but to go to Palace and lose 4-0 to Palace, whatever way you dress that up, that is not a good result. I think Frank put out a pretty strong team. I watched the first 15-20 minutes before I obviously got in my car and went to Tottenham, and they was all right. They were pushing forward, didn't look an awful lot wrong, but it's always worrying, I think, when teams collapse and you end up conceding 3, 4, 5 goals, which Everton have done a few times this season. I find that really worrying. You've already read the fixtures out. None of us need to comment on that. You know how hard those games are going to be, and it's going to be really, really tough. I mean, the only thing that sort of might save them is that there might be 3 teams worse than them. That is the only sort of consolation you can see. But, for Everton to be in the position they're in, what they've got, 25 points, is it? I mean, it's probably the lowest amount of points they've had at this stage of any Premier League season. I played for the club back in '94 when we had the famous game against Wimbledon. They had to win the last game to stay up. They had the same thing, I think, in '97. Everton have been there before. And there is no such thing as you're too big a club to go down, or they'll never go down because they're Everton or they're Arsenal or whoever it might be. Whatever club you name, with a few exceptions, very few exceptions, there's no club that's too big, not to go down. And they've got to get their finger out. And again, I mean, listen, he's an old teammate of mine, Frank Lampard, and I want him to do well. I've already said about the young English managers, and they just need to stay up. And Frank took over. It was always going to be difficult. Benitez had his way of playing, which the Everton fans didn't like. I didn't like it either. And they wasn't going anywhere. They made the change, and Frank's got a really, really tough job on his hands. But the only thing that they've got to concentrate on is stay in the Premier League. Don't worry about other matches or whatever. Just keep your head down, get yourself right, training-wise, formation-wise, tactically, etc., and then just go out and give it your all. And as long as you give it 100%, like any other fan, the Evertonians will back the Everton players. They're a wonderful crowd up there, and if you get a full house at Goodison, it's one of the best places in the country to play your football. But they've got to put the effort in, and they've got to put the performances in for the crowd to back them. So, extremely worrying times, I would say, for Everton Football Club. But you do feel that in Norwich, in Watford, and the way they played this year in Burnley, you do feel that there could well be 3 teams that are going to be worse than Everton.
The scary thing, just briefly, about the defeat yesterday, the 4-0 defeat, was I didn't think Palace were that good.
No, they weren't. No.
I didn't think Palace were even that good. You know what I mean? That's what's really worrying. If you're an Everton fan, you got battered 4-0 to a team that didn't even play that well. That's scary.
I was just going to say, for Everton, whether they stay up or not, there needs to be a bit of a reset upstairs as well. There has to be a big rethink about how they've done things. So I think since 2017, they've had, including caretakers, they've had 8 managers. That's a lot, and they all come with different styles, different philosophies, whether it's Duncan Ferguson's for a bit, or I think Unsworth was there for a little bit as well. Coleman, Benitez, Ancelotti, and bear in mind, Benitez and Ancelotti are not even small names. They're big names. They're seasoned veterans that have done a lot in the game, and they're not getting a tune out of the team. What was that? Sorry,
they did one of that under Ancelotti.
Oh yeah, well,
obviously Real Madrid come calling and boom.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's what I'm talking about is at the end of the day, it's not about keeping the same philosophy. Every manager is different, but you got to identify how you want your club to build and how you continue on when you lose a manager. And I don't think they've done that. So they've bought a lot of players, spent a lot of money, and a lot of those signings have not made sense for the club. So I do worry. Because if it's not this season and they have a poor window in the summer, it could be next season. They need to improve, and they need to start thinking about how they structure from upstairs to downstairs.
Darren T, I honestly think I do agree with the defense analysis. I don't think they have particularly great defenders, but going forward, midfield wise, Donny van de Beek, Damari Gray, Alan, Decore, Townsend, Dele Alli, Calvert-Lewin, and Richarlison. There's a lot of talent in that side, and for them to be 17th with 25 points on the board, I think that's insane.
It's very poor. Calvert-Lewin's been out for a long time. At the end of the day, it's only like really one recognized like out and out striker, and Calvert-Lewin was a massive focal point for Everton. Richarlison, the thing is, he's not one to be relied upon because he has a purple patch and then he disappears for long periods of time, and he's done it again this season. I don't remember him actually having a purple patch, to be honest with you. But so
he did against Arsenal.
Right. Oh, right, yeah. But at the end of the day, it's I just don't feel like. Sorry, one second. I'm
not so sure the business they did in January was as good as people were saying. Dele Alli and Donny van de Beek. No. I didn't think they were great signings. I think Donny van de Beek, people are missing the point with him. He's a phenomenal player, but he's a system player. You can't just sign Donny van de Beek and think he's going to be great. The reason why he was so good at Ajax because he had a pivotal role within a wider ecosystem of a team. You can't just pick him up and plot him into a team. Dele Alli has been done for a long time. People think that's really hard to me. I think his motivation is low. So I didn't get this whole, it's been a great window for Everton. And I was like, no, Donny van de Beek is a great player, but you have to have the right system for him to flourish. He's a very specific sort of player that can do a very specific job. You don't just put him into midfield. You build a midfield around him rather than dropping him into the midfield. And like I said, Dele Alli, I just think was a weird.
The other thing as well, Jordan, was they wasn't fit. And if you're not fit, you need 6 games just to get yourself up to fitness.
Yeah, hitting the ground running.
So he's not fit. Donny van de Beek is, he's been playing and that, but you need 6 games to get going. At which point, by that time, Everton losing games and the confidence is low, so everyone's head goes down anyway. So, I agree. I mean, on paper, you could say there was good signings, but you don't want signings on paper. You want signings that are just going to go in, hit the ground running, and make a difference to the team. And I think they was high risk transfers. There's no doubt about that.
Then they lost Digne, didn't they? And they signed the young left back from
Milenko.
Yeah. Which is another one. He now has to adapt to a new league and understand the English game and how to play with these players before he actually gets into his groove. It's another long one, man. See,
the thing is, right? They've only scored 29 goals this season. So that's where I think that is poor. I mean, you're talking. It's only Watford, Norwich, and Burnley have scored. Well, Watford have scored 29 themselves. It's only Norwich and Burnley that have scored less. So I think I think really, you can have all the midfield in the world, but if you're not firing up front, you're not scoring the goals. Then what? I mean, like as has been alluded to already, the defense is terrible. But I think they would have been okay with that terrible defense if they could just get the goals. There's just nothing happening up front, up top. So that's the problem. And and as you said, Jordan, like signing Dele Alli and Donny van de Beek when they're already top heavy in midfield wasn't necessary. What was necessary was to actually have a focal point for these midfielders to look towards. Waiting for Calvert-Lewin to come back for how many months? They shot themselves in the foot with that. Yeah. And he's come back and he's not been fit. He's not been fully fit, and he's not. Has he scored since he's come back? I don't remember. No, exactly. So that's where you can look and pinpoint that. And they did some, and it's not great business because they didn't address the actual issues they had in January. So, and they are in massive, massive, massive trouble now, I believe. And I wouldn't be surprised if they go down. I only think really that Watford and Norwich are definitely worse, but Burnley signed Weghorst, which was quite the masterstroke, right?
So.
And I feel like they have a way of just clawing themselves out of there. So yeah, that's what I think of Everton anyway.
Now, all our teams are doing quite well right now. So Arsenal battling for the top 4 Champions League, Tottenham battling for top 4 Champions League, West Ham Europa League potential. I think this is the perfect time to laugh at Manchester United and how bad they've been. Because being knocked out of the Champions League, and you, Michael, you've seen the group chat. You've seen. I've taken so many screenshots of your face. All over. I will hopefully plaster all over the internet one day. But let's all laugh at the fact that you've been bad this season, and it is great to see because Manchester United have such an amazing team. Pogba, Cristiano Ronaldo came back, Bruno Fernandes, and nothing has worked. I don't understand. So give us some insight there, Kojo. Why is it been so bad for Manchester United? You call him Gucci.
Is it nice to see your boy in pain? Is it nice to see your boy hurting? Is this what we're doing?
Yes, jump on, pile on. Gucci Everton. That's what you call Manchester United. Gucci Everton.
Use my own terms against me now. No, you know what? Okay, all right. Man. Okay, well, I didn't know you're gonna do this, man. Damn.
You put it in the notes.
I did. It's my fault. Yeah, United have been terrible. United have been terrible. No, look. I think when United signed Sancho, Varane, and Ronaldo, a lot of people were predicting United to be challenging for that title all day, every day. I myself didn't have that confidence. One, because of the manager, I predicted Chelsea to go for the title, so obviously my prediction didn't go well either. But no, there's no excuse. The Atletico performance was pathetic. I've looked back at it already, and it kind of summed up how we've been this season. You know, it's toothless. The passion's not there, but at the same time, there is no structure. The lineups are not working. They revert back to type. I think you saw it when Ranić came in his first game. We won it 1-0, and we were pressing forwards. We were all in. I think it was Palace we played. Palace's half. They weren't comfortable on the ball, and then within 2 or 3 games, we reverted back to type. And that's been Man United throughout. Well, ever since Alex Ferguson left, the manager comes in, wants to play his style. Players revert back. Louis van Gaal was playing his style. Then we lost 5-3 to Leicester. That disastrous one when they came back. And then you saw Man United go back to type. Use Mourinho's team as well. Even though he came away with 2 trophies and finished second, they didn't back him in the window. He went back to type, started playing Scott McTominay centre-back. It's an accumulation of just really ridiculous decisions, one from the club itself. And then number 2, the reason why I give them relation to Everton is because I feel like they've also signed players without a plan because they keep changing managers, and all these managers have different philosophies, different ways of playing, and they also want a different profile of footballer at the club. I don't know where Man United go next. I said at the beginning of the show that it wouldn't surprise me if they finish in the Europa Conference League spot, and it really wouldn't, because I don't know where United catch form. You get a good win against Tottenham. They weren't great against Tottenham, don't get me wrong, but you won the game regardless. And then you go and lose to Atletico, who are not a bad side, don't get me wrong, but the performance doesn't mirror what happened on the weekend prior to that game. So, honestly, the talk about whether Ranić goes into a consultancy role and then the new manager, whether it's Ten Hag, Pochettino, whoever it's going to be, again, it's going to be a new start, a new regime. And I'm thinking what we need to do is just, whoever the manager is that comes in, you got to give him the time to build his team. You got to give him the time to look at the players that he doesn't want in the club. And more importantly, they need to find a way to sell players, because look at the way Liverpool have done it. We praise Liverpool for how they've been good in the window, bringing in Salah at a good price, Van Dijk. But look at the way they've sold players as well. Solanke, Ibe, players that didn't get minutes at Liverpool like that, but they went for big money. It's about how you market these players as well and how you sell these players. So Man United needs to have a lot to learn. And it's funny because Man United used to be good at that. they're not good at it anymore. They lost all identity as soon as Sykes Ferguson. And more importantly as well, I say more importantly, which is crazy, but David Gill as well. When he left, it crumbled in the boardroom. So, yeah, I don't know where we go from here, man. I watch my United games in pain these days. So,
I think you mentioned there, Kojo, about getting rid of players and trying to get value for them. Yeah, but the reality is that a lot of those players, people don't want. They don't want them. And I think you might have to go down the Arsenal route. Arsenal in the last year, 18 months, have had to actually pay to get rid of players. So you kind of, your Socrates, your Ozils, your Aubameyangs, your Mustafis, all these guys, we took a hit on Kolasinac just to get them out the door. The second thing you mentioned, I agree with as well. I think you have to give the next manager complete autonomy to do what he thinks is right for the club. Again, comparing to my club, Arsenal, and Mikel Arteta has been given the control to say, right, who do you want to get rid of and who do you want to keep? And if it means we get a little financial hit at the end of it, we'll take that. But if you feel to move forward, we've got to cut our ties with X, Y, and Z, so be it. We're going to back you, not just financially in the transfer market, but we're going to back your judgment. That's the person you've got to be identifying. As a United fan, thirdly, I'd be concerned the fact that there's still this shortlist being spoken about. I mean, it's by now, you should kind of know who you want. And then by the time summer comes, get the person in. They got a full summer to get their hands dirty and really get going. All this, is it Ten Hag, is it Pochettino? I mean, that's concerning because the whole point of Ranieri coming in, I thought, was to buy you 6 months to work out who the next guy was going to be. But we're now halfway into that 6 months already. And I don't know if you know who the next guy is going to be.
Well, on the transfer thing, the reason why we can't do the Arsenal route is because every time a player's close to leaving, I mean, minus Lingard, obviously, this summer, who, again, we rejected money for. We're actually going to get a good amount of money, firstly, from West Ham in the summer. And then Newcastle were prepared to bring him in quite early as well. We also tried to pull out a ridiculous deal from them as well. The reason why we can't sell these players well is because, or even give them sort of like a termination of contracts, is because we give them contracts on high wages where it becomes difficult to ship them off to other players. I don't like criticizing Phil Jones too tough because he's been through it. If I'm being honest, he's been through it a lot. He's spoken about it. Kudos to him for having the bravery to even come and talk about it, but he's on high wages.
He's not on more than Mesut Ozil or Aubameyang.
No, he's not. But he's not. But Aubameyang and Ozil were outstanding footballers. How are you going to go and tell someone that you've got Phil Jones on 130,000 a week and you have to pay a price for him and near enough match those wages for a defender that hardly plays because he's usually always injured, or he doesn't want to play because he gets ridiculous criticism from his fans? It's hard. It's hard to sell these players, So either his contract runs out, which was almost going to run out, and then we gave him, Smalling, and Ashley Young contracts. 2 of them are not even here anymore, and they went for pennies. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on how Man United build from here. And as for the manager thing, I've honestly signed out of that conversation because I don't care who it is. I just need my manager to be backed and backed properly. That's what I ask for. If you back him properly, you support him properly, and we try and see his vision, then I know you give him a chance to do the best job possible for himself. And if he doesn't do well, then you cancel the project at some point. But until then, it will be same old with Man United.
I mean, let's bring Tony and Darren T into that conversation about the managers. It seems to be the only two that are the next possible managers It's either going to be Pochettino or Ten Hag. Tony, who do you think is the right man for the job at Manchester United right now?
Well, personally, I'd like to see Poch get it. The main reason for that, he's got Premier League experience, and he can come into the league, into what is one of the world's best football clubs. Let's be honest about it. It's a wonderful football club. And, it's a big job to take on. And you don't want to be learning about the Premier League as you go along. You need someone to come in who's got that experience. I mean, I've got to be honest, I'm a bit like Kojo. I sort of scratched my head a little bit. I can't get what's going on at Manchester United. I think the worst thing that you can do in football is to appoint temporary managers. And it's never worked, and it will never work in the future. And, just look at the transfer window, for example. If you're trying to sign a player in that January transfer window that's just gone, and you're saying to that player, come and sign for Manchester United, we'll give you a 4 or 5 year contract. And as a player, you'd say, well, I'm going to say, who's going to be the manager next year? And they'll say, well, we don't know. And then you say, well, hold on, let me get this right. So you want me to sign a 4 year contract for a manager that may like me at the moment, and then you get Poch or someone else comes in, they might not like me. I've then got a 4 year contract, you've got massive problems, you've got Phil Jones situation. So that's what's been going. Interim managers never work. Players, trust me on this, players will say, I'm not really that bothered. Yeah. He ain't going to be here next season. You know, why have I got to try? And if you don't like me, then I'll just sit on the sidelines for a little while, and the new manager will come in, and then things will be all right. And it's like when you have, and that's different, but when you get a caretaker manager in between the two sort of managers, one leaving and one arriving, and players are all over the place because they don't know what's going on. If you have an interim manager, you've got a permanent caretaker manager, and the players have got 7-8 months of chaos, which it is. And to make it worse, the guy's going to have a say in who's the new manager. Yeah. And it's honestly, it's just, I can't get my head around it. For a club the size of Manchester United to be in the position they're in, it's absolute madness. I think one thing I'd say, Koji, you've got to accept it's a transitional period. You've been very, very lucky to have so much success as a Manchester United fan. Listen, you ask Darren, the Tottenham fan. You try being a West Ham fan. You just want a bit of success. You've had it every single year under Sir Alex Ferguson. It's time it was shared out. It's the cycle of football, and there's other teams that are being successful now. Man United are having a poor time. It will change, but it will only change if you get the right manager in place. So in answer to the question, waffled on a bit, but for me, Poch has got to get the job. If Poch gets the job, Darren won't like me for this, you'll have much more chance of signing Harry Kane than you will if someone else gets it.
Tony, I love how you dragged Darren into your kind of group of teams.
That's beautiful. That was beautiful.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I'm quite aggrieved now, but listen, listen. This is the last thing I'm saying because I've got to go, lads. But all right, basically, right, with Man United, I knew that once Sir Alex had retired, they were never going to be the same for many years to come. They had their time. However, I didn't realize they would be this disjointed. I didn't realize that they wouldn't have a plan. I saw who is it? A comment. I am Kang saying United haven't had a plan since 2013. That's a fact. They have. Yeah, there it is. That's a fact. There was no plan in place. You can see that, and the fact that it's 9 years later and there's still no semblance of a plan is quite poor by United standards. You've been an elite club for ages, and you're telling me that you couldn't plan, you didn't have a contingency plan for when Alex Ferguson retired. At the end of the day, like he wasn't going to last forever. And as Tony said, having Ranić, an interim manager there, was no good for the club. Substitute teacher thing. Do you know what I mean? Like when you were at school, you had the substitute teacher. That's when you misbehaved the most. So
it's true.
At the end of the day, like, well, we've got to see who comes in next. Me personally, and I'm going to I say controversial. Everybody sees my opinions on Twitter. Poch, is he going to be good for United? Probably not, because he's not got a history of winning anything. He didn't win anything at Tottenham with a great Tottenham side. I mean, has he won a league with PSG yet?
He's going to win a league with PSG.
Yeah, I mean, still no Champions League with that amount of money and that squad. Like, it's gonna take him a while to win anything with United. I just don't think he's got it. I don't think he's got it in him. That's personal opinion. I'd go for Ten Hag. Personally, if I was United, I'd go for him. I think he's got a better philosophy, better football. And I just think that he's probably going to be he's more used to winning. And that's what it boils down to. You want to win? Get a winner. It's that simple. So for me, that's what I believe.
I think we shall wrap it up there. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for listening. But of course, we will find out where we can find you. So Jordan, we'll start with you. Where can we find you, sir?
I'm on Twitter, guys, _ Jordan J Bryan, or Instagram, my full name, Jordan Jarrett Bryan.
Tony, where can they find you?
At Tony Cottee 9, that's all I know from my Twitter. I'm not like you youngsters. I told you, like you'll just Google me, you'll find me.
Darren T, where can they find you, sir?
On Twitter at Mr. Darren T. Please follow, please interact. I love talking football on here and on Twitter and wherever. It's been great being on the podcast with such esteemed company and Jordan. So sorry, I couldn't help it.
Can we talk about North London Derby, Darren? Is that all right?
Let's chat.
Let's chat for them, yeah.
Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's have it, man. No, but it's been great. It's been good. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Darren_T.
This has been another episode of the Match Report. Good night.